2nd of June, number of the day is number 1. Francis heard, and it's because number 1 is what South Africa used to be as far as industrialized nations, but no more.
Morocco has overtaken South Africa as the number 1 industrialized nation in Africa, which is sad for us, Gareth, because this was a coveted crown that South Africa had for a very long time. Sadly, South Africa industrialized largely off the back of cheap black labor during apartheid times, right? But it was a strong industrial base for the democratic government to then grow the economy, grow more wealth. This is quite serious. And what it points to is that Morocco has been advancing for years, where we've been slowly declining for years in certain aspects that help industry.
Silly question, because I ask silly questions. What exactly is industrialization? How do we try and define that before you get into what went wrong?
So there's no such thing as a silly question.
Thank you.
And I actually had to think about it, but it's basically the extent to which a country can make things. So you're talking about factories that make things, and if you want to really do well, you then export those things around the world. So the more you make things, the more jobs you have, the more they then can go, the workers can then go and boost your economy. If you can export goods to the world, you become rich. And many African nations export raw materials. So the stuff that comes out of the ground, so do we, platinum, gold, coal, which is fine, but you get so much more. And that's why we always speak about beneficiation, or if you value add that raw product. So gold becomes gold jewelry. Platinum becomes catalytic converters in cars. And a lot of cars are being made here by some of the big companies around the world. So it's also about the more technologically advanced you are, then the more industrial you can be as well.
I'm going to ask a question that you hear many sports reporters asking and sports journalists. So because we are no longer number 1, Morocco has taken that from us. Did Morocco take it from us, or did we lose it? It's two very different things.
It sounds like both, but definitely this report from the Development Bank, the African Development Bank, it looked at sort of certain factors over a period of years until last year. So it measures industrial performance. So that's how much things are we making in the factories, how much are we exporting. But it points to this gradual long-term decline in our competitiveness. Now, there are direct drivers it talks about of industry, which is infrastructure. We've lost a lot of our infrastructure. Education, we're not doing well on that score. Access to finance, always an issue for small businesses. Then there are indirect drivers, which is inflation, and we're doing pretty well there. Remember, inflation was coming down before the war. Public debt, we're finally getting on top of our debt. But here, look at this, business environment and rule of law. And many would argue we have a great rule of law, but if the cops are implicated in corruption and we're not putting the right people behind bars and there's a lot of crime deterring investment, then that's a problem. So even though Morocco has been moving forward and we've been going back.
So even though we're talking primarily here, I would guess like the Madlanga Commission, the ad hoc committee, when all these high-ranking police officers have been implicated, even though they're allegations and they're being investigated, the optics of it doesn't look good.
Yeah, and look, this was done last year, and it points to several years, right? So it doesn't point to the recent things, but what they're talking about is an overall decline in many of these areas. Something else that's really interesting here. So firstly, the top countries are now Morocco, South Africa, Egypt, Tunisia, and Mauritius. And the lesson for me is we just have to do better. These are the structural reforms, things like infrastructure, things like load shedding would be here, the business environment, things that enable or hamper business, municipal water, things that encourage people to come and want to build factories here, make things here.
Invest here,
or encourage them to go to Morocco or Mauritius.
We actually just had the president talking about this on ENCA when he was talking about the presidency budget, and he actually focused on municipalities and the fact that you'll see investors, when they don't see infrastructure, for example, being well looked after, they've got the money as investors, they can simply take it somewhere else, and they are.
Exactly, they've got choices.
Yes.
And South Africa was always the obvious choice, right? The gateway into Africa. It is no longer the obvious choice, and that's what we have to remember. Even on our own continent, we are losing competitiveness, where other countries are really going full tilt. And what's really interesting to me is just to look at our continent as a whole. Africa produces less than 2% of global manufacturing output. So everything made in factories across the world, less than 2% comes from this entire continent. 1.4% of global manufacturing exports. Now, a big game changer would be African countries trading with each other, right? And also making bigger factories that go across borders and using the scale of that. But intra-African trade, despite all the talk of an African free trade area, 14.4%. So our government has recognized this, that it could be a game changer for us and for everybody to trade more amongst our African countries.
Just for the average person watching this right now, what does it mean for the average South African? What do I take away from this, for example?
So this to me is about jobs, because the more factories you have, the more things you're building and producing, the more jobs there are. So this is serious for us. And at least there's a chance for us. I think we really need to have a wake-up call, because for years what this report is suggesting is Morocco has just done the hard yards to do well in certain areas, and we've just been declining in so many areas. It has to reverse. So let this be a wake-up call that Morocco has overtaken South Africa as the most industrialized nation in Africa.